Ron Weasley. One minute he's a complete ass, the next minute he's a total dreamboat. Happy Tuesday, Potterheads! Today we are talking about Chapter 15 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and today is going to be just one big old in defense of Hermione, so get ready! But before we jump into it, go ahead and pause to read the recap in the description if you need to. And if you're new here, welcome! Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to, you can subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you always know when I upload. And if you need to start over, you can check out all of the seasons that I've done so far of the book club at the card in the top left. Okay, I am really eager to talk about Ron and Hermione in this chapter, but I want to start off by showing off a little bit of my former athletic self. And I say former because, well, this is me now. Let's talk about sports. Don't get scared. If you're not the kind of person that usually likes to talk about this kind of thing, this is still directly related to the chapter. Oh man, watch time is really going to suffer if I put this part at the front, isn't it? But first, I mean, just some applause for J.K. Rowling, who really got so much better at writing Quidditch play-by-play than she did from the first book. Like almost every other Quidditch chapter that we've read so far, there's been some other event that has been the reason that we're seeing this happen as a reader. Harry's broom being jinxed, the rogue bludger, the Dementors. So all of those things gave J.K. Rowling something extra to write about other than just pure play-by-play commentary. And yeah, if we saw all of the matches that get played every year, even just all of the matches that Gryffindor plays, it would be like really boring and really unnecessary. But for the first time, we got a Quidditch chapter where the Quidditch existed in the narrative pretty much just for the purpose of it being an important part of life at the school. Like, there aren't really any extra events or extenuating circumstances that explain why we're reading it. This is finally just a Quidditch match for the sake of itself. And this little old sports lover just couldn't love it anymore. I'm sorry, but I don't even think you have to be a sports fan to get emotional about the ending. Because it's not like we're celebrating an especially well-planned strategic move or anything. We're not dissecting tactics, although in a minute I will be dissecting tactics. We're just celebrating the triumph of a group of people with a common ambition. These 7 kids who share the same dream, one of whom has been denied that dream the previous 6 attempts. If you don't get a little choked up thinking about how happy Oliver Wood is in that moment, then I swear, you don't have a heart. Just think about it for a minute. It doesn't have to be sports. The event could be anything. It doesn't even matter. There was a crowd of hundreds upon hundreds of people all sharing a moment of intense emotion with each other. The highs and lows, the passion and the tension, the drama and the excitement and the anger and the frustration and the pure joy. That is such a powerful thing when hundreds of people get together and rally around a common goal or a common belief. It's so beautiful. Okay, that's my brief argument for why everyone should find a spectator sport that they enjoy. Real quick, let's talk about how Marcus Flint failed his entire house by changing the lineup. Slytherin losing is Marcus Flint's fault entirely. Lee Jordan, resident Quidditch expert himself, said that Flint chose size over skill. He picked all the biggest, most bullish chasers and beaters that he could find, and I think that decision ultimately is what sunk them in the end. Because Slytherin didn't need to win that match in order to win the cup. They just needed to lose by fewer than 200 points. Slytherin are clearly a really talented team when Flint fields his normal squad. Like, they score a lot of goals and they don't concede much. But Flint took off his goal scorers and just put brutes on brooms who were willing to barrel into people. All he had to do was make sure that he had enough goal scorers to make sure that they stayed within 50 points of Gryffindor. He didn't even need to make sure that Malfoy caught the snitch. Like, they could have pulled a 1994 Quidditch Cup. They could have been Ireland winning the cup even though Crumb caught the snitch. Just bad strategy. Okay, sports talk is done. Now it's time for In Defense of Hermione. A big one today. A big one! I genuinely don't see how anyone can read this chapter and still think that Ron and Hermione aren't good for each other. Now let me be clear when I say that. I'm not pretending that Ron and Hermione have a perfect relationship or anything. Like, clearly well into their marriage even, they're probably still bickering and getting into arguments all the time. But hey, guess what? Not every relationship in a book has to be perfect, okay? Like, I know we all hold things in literature to a higher standard because it was invented by a person rather than being real. But Ron and Hermione are amazing together, okay? So just leave them alone! Okay, now let's talk about how we start seeing them fall in love in this chapter. We know that both Ron and Hermione can be a little hard-headed at times. They're a couple of seriously stubborn children. So it's not really surprising that it kind of took something traumatic to basically hit them over the head and make them stop acting like idiots to each other. And this moment of reconciliation between them is just like so freaking cute. When Ron offers to actually help with Buckbeak's appeal this time around, Hermione is just floored. She is so touched that Ron would help. Like, honestly, I really think that Ron should have been helping something this whole time, and it's not something that he should really be getting so much praise for. Chivalry being one of the defining tenets of Gryffindorhood, after all. But there's just so much emotion being shared between the trio right now that to Hermione, Ron is like a freaking knight in shining armor.
I'll be a knight.
Ooh, foreshadowing. No, never mind. That's nothing. And when has Ron ever been known to volunteer to help out with stuff? Like, this boy is almost always complaining when it comes to something that even vaguely resembles working in the slightest. But because he sees Hermione absolutely gone to pieces because of Buckbeak's order of execution, he cannot help but step in and offer to help. So yeah, maybe he should have been helping out all along, but Hermione definitely knows that it's kind of out of character for Ron to offer to put in work for someone else. And guys, Hermione finally actually apologizes for her stubbornness. Hermione clearly does not like to admit to being wrong. I mean, how can you like doing something that you've had so little practice having to do anyway? She's just so rarely wrong, you guys. But Hermione finally admits that she's been pretty boneheaded about this whole Crookshanks Scabbers situation. And Ron actually accepts the apology? Like, doesn't it feel like it would have been more normal for Ron to be like, yeah, you should have been sorry this whole time? But instead, he's actually kind of sweet about it all. Notice too that this whole exchange is pretty much dominated by Ron and Hermione, like at least the emotional parts of it. Harry is just kind of there, like he's serving some purpose to get some explanation out of it all, but like I really think that the biggest part of this exchange is this wonderful emotion that Ron and Hermione are sharing with each other. And then Hermione hits Malfoy, so it makes it that they're absolutely perfect for each other. Like, okay, I am not condoning violence here, but I think it says something important that when Hermione finally gets pushed to a breaking point with Malfoy, she resorts to violence. Because who else does that? Ron freaking Weasley. We've seen Ron try to beat up Malfoy before in order to defend Hermione. And now Hermione has actually started to beat up Malfoy in order to defend Hagrid. Guys, I know this moment is a bit silly to include in my extended argument for why they're perfect for each other, but I do think it matters in a way, because Harry never really resorts to physical violence in the same way that these two do. Of the potential unions among trio members, heteronormative or otherwise, Hermione and Ron share a lot of those deep below the surface character traits that make good relationships. And the important thing isn't that Hermione also enacts violence upon Malfoy, as awesome as it is. Couldn't you just watch that all day? What's important is that Ron is the one that tries to intervene. Ron is the one who tries to calm her down. Harry doesn't do shit to help the situation. For the rest of the chapter, it's Ron who voices concern over how much Hermione's doing. It's Ron who worries about Hermione and who voices those concerns out loud. So yeah, Ron and Hermione definitely started falling in love right here in chapter 15 of Prisoner of Azkaban, and no one can convince me otherwise. Not even you, J.K. Rowling. I don't care if you just say it was wish fulfillment. They're amazing together. I get so angry sometimes. That's all for In Defense of Hermione. Okay guys, time for a fun question this week. If you had the freedom to slap any character from the books in the face, who would it be? Now when I say freedom, I mean freedom from punishment, freedom from guilt, freedom from any moral objection. Just like totally free to slap him in the face and then walk away with no consequences or bad feelings, whatever. You best believe I'm slapping Lucius Malfoy right in his dumb, evil face. I bet he'd cry. Let me know who you'd slap in the comments below. And actually play. Don't say you wouldn't do it. And that's gonna be all for this week's video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and you want to follow along, you can subscribe. And make sure you ring the notification bell so that you always know when I upload. And if you really love being a part of this community, there are ways that you can support me on screen and in the description below. Here are some other videos. If you enjoyed this one, your assignment for next week is to read chapter 16. That's Professor Trelawney's prediction. So make sure you guys read that by next Tuesday. And until then, happy reading, Nox!